So let's take an example. Someone wants to start in Dubai. कि यार मेरा एटलीस्ट आई कैन स्टार्ट विद 10,000 15,000 dirham. So what do you recommend them? अब उसको क्या recommend करोगे?
My recommendation would be to enhance your skill, get to a certain skill level, and when you are being interviewed in a global market, they would probably gauge, and then you can actually take a jump into the global market.
So when you're hiring, so what do you prefer the most? Certification or a skill?
Certification just maybe from a resume selection, but entirely skill. I mean, certification can only get your CV shortlisted.
The people who are coming for the interviews, anything you want to talk about it? Majorly mistakes or something that you really want to tell them that boss, don't do this thing. One myth about cybersecurity you would like to bust?
I mean, so many people just tell me, oh, okay, they just get into that hacking. No, bro, it's not about hacking. It's only just 5 to 10% part of it. So there is plethora of opportunity in all the other domains as well.
So now if someone wants to, achieve this level in next 5 to 6 years, just started, they completed the college and entered into the market, and they want to cover into the next 5 to 6 years. So is that possible that they can cover? If yes, so what would be the roadmap for them?
So going to get into cybersecurity, I mean, and if you're straight away pass out of the college, I think you can start with basics. Network basics or something, which is essentially the fundamentals. Why? Because...
Hi Abhishek, how are you?
Hey, hi Nathan, nice to meet you.
Same here.
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for asking and calling you here.
Yeah, definitely. I'm very, highly appreciate you joined this session today, or this podcast session. As you know, in the beginning, we have discussed that we have started this, journey of series of the podcast where we want to bust all the myths regarding the cybersecurity by calling the cyber expert. And now we are in Dubai. We are happy and meeting with the people who actually, cross the border by expertise. So we are very happy to have you here. And so let's start with a brief introduction in your own language. I know all the rules and regulations, so I don't want to talk about you. I want you to talk about yourself.
Okay, so I'll start with a little bit of background. So did my 10th and 12th from place near Indore called Nagda. It's set up by Grassam. And then did my engineering from GSITS Indore. Completed that in 2006. 2005, it's pretty one of the best colleges in Indore. So got placement that time into Mahindra British Telecom, which later transitioned into MBT or Tech Mahindra.
Techem,
yeah. So got into Techem. It was like near to HCL. So joined in Noida and then shifted to Bangalore. So in Bangalore, it was Tech Mahindra R&D division where I was placed. So I'll just try and elaborate a bit so that people can understand the whole context of the journey. So over there in TechM R&D, it was primarily about reading the RFC and then developing the code, things like that. So I'm coming from a bit of a coding background in telecom, and then subsequently moved to Pune in same branch of Tech Mahindra, but that was into billing systems.
Okay.
So OSS, BSS. So little bit of technical, security, coding, all those things were involved for the first 3 years. Then I decided to do my MBA, moved to Symbiosis. It was techno-managerial from Symbiosis Pune. In Symbiosis, after first year, there's an internship program. So all the company comes and give you an internship. So I got my internship in Ernst & Young. Did 2 months internship over there. And just before the campus placement starts, got into EY. So worked in EY for a decade. 2013-14 onwards, I was primarily traveling to Middle East. Okay. Most of my clientele was in Middle East.
13-14 back?
Yeah, 2013-14. Yeah. Initial few years were in Saudi. I mean, it started with a couple of clients in Europe. Then many clients were there back in India as well. 13-14, one of few clients were Saudi Telecom, so on and so forth. 16-17, Do Telecom. So couple of clients were here. So lot of traveling was happening here. And then eventually decided to move to the region because it was... the traveling part is still there in consulting, so can't go away with that. Yes. Or can't do away with that. But happy to travel and meet as many people as possible. And then when I shifted actually from Ernst & Young, I got a good opportunity from EY side. I want to emphasize a little bit on that one. So from EY side, I got seconded into, I think I can name the clients, right? So I got seconded into BCG, Boston Consulting Group, in their internal function for developing all the strategy. Which I was doing for almost 1.5 to 2 years. And while working over there, the lingo and the language and everything changes. Your thought process changes around strategy. So that helped me to crack IBM interview over here.
Okay.
In IBM Global, there's a security strategy team. So I was recruited directly from India to IBM. Worked in IBM as a security architect for almost 1.5 2 years into their security strategy division, and then moved to Accenture Middle East over here, and now leading the security architect practice for the entire Middle East. And happy to be part of.
That's
That's
a
a
wonderful
journey.
journey.
Yeah,
That's
that's a
inspiring
and
journey you have.
interesting
Matlab, lot
journey.
of things you have done. So it was somewhere back. If I talk about like 13, 14, when you're talking about your traveling here. So I thought that you want to settle in Middle East or somewhere like.
No, no. Frankly speaking, I never thought of that. I mean, this is an interesting question because, frankly speaking, I was based out in Bombay, and I was comfortably traveling. So, if the clients are in Saudi, that time, I mean, Saudi, that time was not that much opened up. So, like traveling was okay. When I moved to Dubai, I realized that yes, there is a bit of a, I mean, like an ease in the city and stuff like that. So maybe it did tinge a bit, and that time things were developing from a family perspective as well. So I had a kid. He was small, 1 year. I mean, like couple of months. So that time it was okay to travel. Then once you have to take care of the family and you're moving away from the family every 1 month, so then I decided that let's rather, I mean, had an opportunity and offer over here. So why not be in this region? Now also the traveling is there, but you can come back every once a week, even if I'm traveling to Qatar or if I'm traveling to Saudi or here in Dubai.
So that was
Abu
my
Dhabi.
first
Yeah.
question. I just prepare a few questions from your profile when we checked. So one question I stored in the beginning, I asked. So next year you started as a technical associate.
Mhm.
Today you're designing frameworks.
Yeah.
It's first of all, it's a it is something called achievement. You know, when you're working as a frame, you're just designing the framework. You're consulting these different places, not in India, going abroad. You know, in my childhood, I do remember I was watching a cartoon, and in that cartoon. They screen so that person, that particular cartoon character visit the India, and what they have shown the Indian picture there, that there's a Taj Mahal and a guy sapera type, and you know wo bean baja raha hai, and there's a snake in the matlab, that was the image of the Indians, you know, most of the places what I understood in my childhood कि this is most of the places they क्या होता है इंडियन दिखाना है तो ताजमहल दिखाना है एक यू शुड हैव अ स्नेक मतलब 2-3 चीजें क्योंकि बिकॉज पूरे वर्ल्ड में यही पता है सबसे ज्यादा स्नेक्स हमारे यहाँ हैं तो वो कुछ पहले ऐसी कुछ पिक्चर्स थी नाउ वी आर इनटू द यूएस डूइंग गुड इतने सारे सीईओज हैं पीपल लाइक यू कंसल्टिंग दी कंपनी इज लाइक मूविंग अब्रॉड तो आई थिंक दिस इज समथिंग रियली अप्रिशिएबल कि यार हम लोग जा रहे हैं और हम लोग बात कर रहे हैं इस लेवल पे कर रहे हैं तो एक तो वो चीज हो गई मैं रियली अप्रिशिएट करूंगा तो मैं यहाँ पे क्वेश्चन यही पूछ रहा था यू स्टार्टेड एज अ यू नो technical associate and designing framework for the entire nations. So how do you navigate that leap from, you know, execution to the strategy?
Interesting question, and if I can elaborate a bit. So one thing I think which kept me going was to learn continuously. I'll just give you certain examples. What used to happen back then, and maybe I was fortunate enough by the firms which I was working in and by my seniors as well. So what happened even during initial days of TechM, we used to sit in a BT lab, British Telecom lab, where TCS was there, TechM was there, Infosys was there, and everybody had their product which was getting integrated to serve the entire British Telecom. Now, when we were sitting in that lab, I'm done with my part of the programming, but I was very inquisitive कि अच्छा वो क्या कर रहा है, or the other guy is what he's doing. So I used to have that end-to-end visibility वाला part. Always was curious कि अच्छा वहाँ क्या हो रहा है, वहाँ क्या हो रहा है. That was one of the things which happened in initial few years, but that was not a requirement per se. When I moved to Ernst & Young, over there I'll tell you one interesting story which happened, and eventually I get into that one. So one of the few first initial tasks is कि VAPT perform करना है.
ठीक है.
That time it was VAPT or even performing vulnerability assessment on a telecom was so much of a they used to take so much caution in that. So VA used to happen only at 12 in the night. So once you're, and that time Ola, Uber were not there. So if you are going to a client side at 12 o'clock in the night and you can only perform, let's say VA on 3 IPs or 5 IPs. So वो तो आधे घंटे में या 1 घंटे में करके it's done, right? Now what will we do? So if the guy is sitting next to me, I mean whoever is working in the operation part, I used to ask yaar, okay, can you tell me a whole diagram how this is working? Because I have done my task. I have gone a little bit further into depth and seen कि अच्छा what are the issues and observation, but I'm done with the security part. But then I was interested कि the things which are written in the textbook is not there practically on ground. So if I studied telecom, intelligent network, there's just a box which is made, but there is no elaboration or details or anywhere over there. So I used to ask people, let's say if I've gone for Kolkata for an assessment, I'll ask, bro, can you please tell me or draw the diagram? And then we used to draw the diagram together. Now, when I'm doing another assessment in Mumbai, I used to ask a similar diagram from another person, how this network is connected. So I used to draw all the architecture. And then, it was more of a value-added learning for me.
Okay,
Because
okay.
if you'll see, if I start explaining network, it becomes very boring. Okay, there's a box router. Until unless I visualize. So in engineering, I didn't understand anything what was happening. But when I used to make the architecture diagram, then I can actually visualize that this is the end-to-end picture. So that actually helped me a little bit going into that architecture dimension. Additionally, what happened was, I remember one nice, interesting story. I think I'm slightly deviating from the question, but I'll come to that. So what happened was one of the organization was launching the M-Wallet, and a couple of data centers were in Hyderabad, couple of them were in Bombay. The ecosystem was in Delhi, like that. I prepared a VAPT report because my job was only doing the security assessment part, and another team of EY was engaged in business process part. Now, my partner asked me, just draw on the diagram that how the whole flow is working.
Achha.
And I smiled because I have mugged up all the findings that he's going to ask, what are the critical findings, so on and so forth. He asked me, just explain the whole thing. And I just smiled because for me, it was like 24 servers connected. But which one is connected where, how it is connected, what is the impact of this? He just asked me, and then I got a good time, nice time from him saying that these are the basics. You first need to understand the business, then you need to do the assessment that, okay, finding for on one particular server is much more important than the other one. So what happened in the whole journey, whenever I was doing any kind of assessment, I used to draw and understand the overall architecture every now and then. So it helped me because I was trying to learn the business. Security was coming along, but every time what I was trying to do is, and I always thought that I'm getting paid to learn, because in the night when I'm sitting with you or with someone, he's explaining me the network and architecture, which actually is not written in the book, which is not even available on the internet. For that matter, because company would keep it confidential. Right. So if they're drawing it on paper and explaining it, so it's a journey which has been filled with a lot of learnings which has been accumulated, and those kind of learnings now help. When you are here, and it's still a learning journey. So even I'm here and consulting clients, I still have to wear my humble hat, ask them that can you explain me this particular part, and they're more than happy to. Operations people actually know the best on ground, and they can tell you the problems from ground, and you can obviously link it to the business problems, because at the end of the day, security is serving business.
True. Absolutely correct. So let's moving to the other question, and that is something I really want to know. So, Abhishek, you're already aware about my business. So I'm helping the candidates to find the right career in their domain. So when most of the, the people who approach me for the, finding the rest better option into their career, they are coming from the network security, or mostly from the SOC background. Mm-hmm. So let's say someone is, watching our video and having a career into the SOC. And they reach out, I'm not happy. This is, there's a stringent point ki theek hai, ab wo nahi ho raha hai, I'm not able to. And now wants to come into this domain. Jo maine thoda sa R&D karke dekha, now wants to reach out to the security architect, strategy level, like you. So kya suggest karoge unko? What are you going to suggest?
Interesting one, because I see, young generation, and even when I was also young, we are never satisfied with what kind of work we are doing. The moment you are doing VAPT, you feel that this can be automated, config review, somebody's working on the SOC, for him, the job is monotonous after a point in time. I think, when you, from a holistic perspective, try to have that business understanding end to end, wherever you are working. In consulting, we get more opportunities to have different ecosystem understanding. So it's definitely much more for us. What I would recommend to them is get into every area. If you are working in SOC, nobody would stop you. In SOC also you'll have certain amount of systems and all, but try to understand the business part, that where they can actually contribute, or there is always a scope of enhancement every time, even in SOC as well.
Okay.
You asked me that if someone is working from a VAPT perspective, and some other domain, for example. So in data security, if you're working in DLP part, there is obviously multiple avenues to explore, the DAM part, PKI part, encryption part, so on and so forth. If you're working in the red teaming part, the VA and PT, like you can go into the depth of it. I mean, I have some of my colleagues who are just into fuzzing and all, so they have produced so many CVs.
Acha.
And I mean, if and they're pretty well known and renowned in the market. So I mean, you can decide whether you want to go deep or you want to go breadth-wise. And cybersecurity is too big. I mean, and you're more than comfortable. It's actually contextual based that what works best for you. So if I have to advise to people, I mean, you decide your areas, and I think in first few months or maybe let's say in 1 or 2 years, you are easily able to decipher that yeah, network security I'm not that good with, but I'm liking the application part of it.
ठीक है.
Or if I'm good with let's say I'm able to visualize data like anybody else. So you have to decide your domain and area which you feel that it's apt, and then you can get into that particular dimension. So either get into the depth of it, or you can learn everything and get into the broader spectrum, which will probably happen over a course of time, definitely.
That's true. अच्छा ठीक है. That's indeed, that makes sense. कि हाँ भाई, you have to decide it where you want to go as per your interest area. That I discussed with the other in my interviews as well. So now I want to know one thing precisely. Let's say you took 10 years, 12 years, whatever the time you have to reach out to this particular domain. Although you start, but it takes time to understand, okay, this is my part. I have to start or reach out to this level. So now if someone wants to, achieve this level in next 5 to 6 years, they just started, they completed the college and entered into the market, and they want to cover into the next to 5 to 6 years. So is that possible that they can cover? If yes, so what would be the roadmap for them?
Good question. And many times, actually, in fact, when we also recruit from the colleges over here, many of the freshers come straight away into strategy. And
Acha.
I mean, the kids from college come straight away into strategy, and they're wide open and they're very talented as well. So there's no right or wrong that they can't do. It's just that within that 3-4 years of duration, if they have got into enough number of domains to understand the overall ecosystem, and if they can understand that, I think even within 2-3 years they can easily do that. But for that, I mean, I just have to remove my blinkers. I cannot say that okay, I'm doing only the SOC part of it and then I'll understand everything. No, I'm only into data, then also it will not serve. Or I'm into governance, that also will not serve. If I've kept things wide open for me and I'm understanding each and every dimension, then it becomes slightly easier. At times, what also happens is you're recruited straight away into security strategy, or in fact, for that matter, anytime even ISO assessment or maturity assessment kind of engagement, that gives plenty of opportunity to actually get into the breadth of it and understand the specific part. Normally, nobody's expert in every single domain. So you need to have certain level of knowledge in all the domains. I mean, if you're talking specifically from an architecture perspective, you need to have a fair bit of knowledge, and then you can get the SMEs involved, and they'll be more than happy to have that things connected. For me, it was always about connecting all the dots together. So I had that vision, and I still try the best to have that visibility and overall visibility. And until I don't have that, I feel uncomfortable. So till the time, and I think if they go with that particular mindset, it would definitely help the younger generation as well, and it's easily achievable.
Right. I mean, what is your suggestion to start with? Where should they start from?
Okay, I mean, somebody who has got into cybersecurity or somebody who's going to get into cybersecurity?
Going to get into the cybersecurity.
So going to get into cybersecurity, I mean, and if you're straight away pass out of the college, I think you can start with basics. Network basics or something which is essentially the fundamentals. Why? Because it is always easier for a person who understands to teach the application part of it other way around versus the other way around. Because if somebody is expert in, let's say, an application part of it, and all of a sudden you start talking into that VLAN, VDOM, VRF language, it's very difficult for them. So what I realize is to have understanding of networks and then understand or get into the other ecosystems. So that would be I think one of the starting point. First point is like get your basics, and then you can explore into other areas. People at times get straight away into governance, and governance covers everything.
Right.
So now I'm saying that, okay, you have to enhance the data security, or you have to enhance encryption. How would anybody know that? I mean, I also after 17, 18 years of experience, still struggle with those parts. So these are like
basic thing that you should know.
Yeah.
Of course, if
some
you don't
basic
know
and Look, I think people also have this misconception that I need to be very much technical, blah, 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 and so many other apprehensions they would be having, which is totally okay to understand. But I've seen yesterday only, I was speaking to one of my colleagues, I met her. She's from Europe and she's into privacy domain. Now, they have a very different understanding that understand the crux of privacy from a law perspective. And people from India, and they are thinking it from a control perspective. So within a fraction of a second, I realized that this is interesting. Because depending on the region, depending on how we are coordinating with people, you get to know that, okay, their dimension is entirely different and they can actually look at it from a legal perspective, which probably cybersecurity professionals, many of them are not. So in your department, your division, somebody busted a myth for me. When I was in college, I was very apprehensive. I had to do coding whole day, this, that, so on and so forth. And when I get into tech, my boss said, Leah, coding is only 10% of the job. We have project management, we have Scrum Master, we have Agile, we have business analyst, we have so many other things to be done, taken care of. Somebody is developing the RFP, change management. A lot of things are there. Yes. What you are taking or you're boasting about, coding is just like one part of it. Similarly for cybersecurity, hacking or VAPT is just one small part of it. There are like multiple dimensions to it. So I think that one should be, if they're cognizant about this thing, they should come up with an open mind. Okay, let me explore for a certain amount of time and more than enough avenues.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is actually, when I took these sessions online and offline, this is what I recommend them, boss. Let's start from the very basic.
Yeah.
So this is how you just
basic is, you can't get away with basic, because if you, whatever faff you are talking about at a certain high level, somebody will catch you on the very basic question. Very basic. And then
the word you have used, and if you're enhancing a security or if you're testing in that perspective, so whether you are into the offensive, defensive, if you are not aware the basic layers of the networks and understanding of these things, I think it would be a slightly difficult, not slightly, I think it would be a challenging for you to understand, to secure network or something like that.
Absolutely. Because, if I can elaborate a little bit also, I'm into architecture, so we use a lot of contextual layer, business understanding. So
you are into the architecture.
Yeah. Yes. So what typically happens is, anybody or everybody has a certain lens to it. Only when I'm working into data security, I'm focusing only on certain part. When I'm in network security, focusing only on certain part. What typically happens is that you are missing the overall bigger picture. So for example, we say that confidentiality of data is important, or availability is something, business processes and all those things are important. But for an airline, right now, the most important part is availability rather than confidentiality. For a bank, it would be entirely confidentiality. So for airline, my flight is landing every 1 minute. Those systems are very important. For the other one, the systems which are holding the data, that is very important. So the context of these two organizations differ entirely.
Completely.
So you cannot just judge it by, okay, I'm performing a vScan here versus vScan here, and things would be same.
That life is on stake on the other side.
Yeah, exactly. These days there was one famous video which is very common, that people are picking up the balls and they are showing that the one who takes the ball from the last one reaches
right,
first.
Right, absolutely, yeah.
And I'm thinking that where this is applicable, this is applicable only while collecting the balls or collecting the shuttle. Because practically, I might be, for me, there is one simple task which I have to complete. That is more important, and I'll finish that. So context, having that context and looking at that context, or in fact, when I'm suggesting to multiple people as well, their journey, other journey would be entirely different. Somebody would be very much expert in network. Somebody would have a natural inclination towards coding. So they can make their way through
that.
Application security. Somebody can do it via network. Somebody else is pretty good in visualizing data. They can do it that way. So they just have to decide that what they are good at.
Perfect.
That's
so. Of course, you are sitting at this level. You are taking the interviews as well, different type of interviews. So, anything that you want to share with the people who are coming for the interviews? Anything you want to talk about it? Majorly mistakes or something that you really want to tell them that, boss, don't do this thing.
Look. Maybe I'll give my answers might be a little bit elaborative, but I want to share as much with examples as possible. So typically, when we are taking interview, and I have been taking interview almost for 10 years now. So even earlier as well, when somebody has selected your CV, which means now you are there in front of him. So whatever certifications you have done and other things you have done, that's there. But at the end of the day, I want to understand that how much do you know, or what is your attitude towards solving this thing? And I asked this question to my partner because when my EVA interview happened, and I'll just tell you the interesting thing. So what happened was, it is the first company to visit the campus, and it was 2010. Yeah. So the topper of my, typically like how a Viva would happen. So the topper went inside first, and he just came out, and in between you have like 2-3 minutes of slot, right, to before you enter. So I asked him that, what did he ask you? Like a typical Viva thing. He said the entire interview was on DSLR camera, and I was like, oh, okay. And then I entered, and my interview happened, and then subsequently, so I asked him later on that how did you decide that what kind of questions you are asking. So he said that, I mean, when we are interviewing or anybody's interviewing, they're smart enough to understand, realize that how much you know, how much you're faffing around, so on and so forth. So when his interview was entirely on DSLR, and this was 2010, he actually went into that, how you can present, how much you know, how you can articulate somewhere, because he has written camera or photography as a hobby. So, I mean, once you're coming out, it's very difficult to decipher whether your interview went good or bad. But when I asked him, he said that, look, I mean, we are into consulting. Most of the time, we are almost up to the speed, or we are trying to speed up with what is happening in the market. So we want to understand your aptitude, attitude, analytical skills, ABCD, multiple things, right? And those 1 or 2 questions can actually give me the answers. So I've heard scenarios where like people are coming up with theoretical answers, maybe from Chat GPT or from some other area. But look, if I have seen your CV and if I have seen certain words, the thing is, I'll be restricted to your CV. Yes. Within that CV, I'll ask you 2 questions. I mean, even when I used to go to my college, and if I'm asking a simple question, that how this mobile will call to this mobile, somebody who knows in and out, he will explain in a very technical, in a very detailed manner, versus a person who's speaking at a superficial level. So it's very easy to gauge. I mean, and with all due respect to all the interviewers, and to all the candidates as well, I think after certain years of experience, interview happens primarily with references, and your cyber fraternity is pretty small, so people know each other. But I mean, initially, to the audience that you are catering to, specifically when they're new, I think whatever is written, you need to know every single word around what you have mentioned in your CV. So if you have written that I have done some exploits, then be ready that somebody is going to just come and ask the questions on that particular point or topic. So it's as easy as that. That if you have done it properly, then mention that and just stick to that.
So what profiles, majorly, which profiles you took the interviews? Or come into the consideration when you are into the interviews?
Recently, I mean, mostly, for example, these days some BCM profiles, but prior to that, mostly, since I'm a lead architect, I take security architecture interviews. And obviously, even when somebody is writing that he's a solution architect, I don't look that you have done everything. It's not possible. But even if he's good into 2-3 areas, and that's how I think the certification also works. If you are good in 2-3 areas, that's what even they expect you. And couple of areas you have fair bit of knowledge about it. It actually helps and serves the purpose. So I'll try and go deep into those areas and understand whether this particular person will be able to articulate or answer and explain it in front of the client or not. And by that, within that 10-15 minutes, you're easily able to gauge that what is the depth and what is the attitude. So true. I think
so. Chalo, it's for an architect level or something. But let's say if you want to check the cybersecurity basic, कि ठीक है इसको आता है कि नहीं आता. Let's say at that level.
Yeah, I have done even a couple of those interviews as well. So in that case, what I try to do is I just try to stick to their resume that, okay, you have done this project. Please explain me that what you did in this particular project. And just 1 or 2 layer deep, you ask the questions and
you understand that the resume is genuine or not.
Yeah. I mean, for example, we have also passed college, right? So we know that whether somebody has actually spent effort or not spent. Attitude is primarily more important. Even if you have written something, I mean, I'll try and stick to that particular profile, but I would just go a little bit deeper, and to what level they are able to answer. And then obviously, I mean, if they're genuine in saying that, okay, I have done this thing, and I don't know these things, which is okay and acceptable. So if for example, somebody has written that I'm good in application security XYZ. So obviously you'll straight away, rather than asking a bookish question that what is SQL injection or something like of that sort, I will straight away get into which application you exploited, how you have exploited. Can you explain me that what all the scenarios you faced? In this, you'll easily get whether the person has done it, to what extent he has gone it, which is the most complicated application you have done. You'll get the answer.
Probably you must have that question ना कि इससे मैं identify कर लूँगा whether he is having the knowledge or not. वो basic question क्या है? I want you to unreveal
Basic
that question.
questions are always basic. I mean, it will be as basic as possible. कि यार, just if you can tell me your mobile is over here or my mobile is over here. For example, networking ka. Just explain me that, or as basic as that. Once I open www.gmail.com, what happens? You just explain me as simple as that.
ठीक है.
Now, in your company, from your laptop, if you have opened this particular site, what happens? Now, if you are able to tell me the entire workflow and if you are able to speak on that lines, which means you know, and in between, I mean, at whatever depth somebody wants to go in, they can actually go in.
They can go in.
Go in and give the answer ki
We can go to the
route
ports.
kahan se hoga, NAC kahan laga hoga, to this level of firewall, to that level of firewall, to application, to this, that, browser, client server side. All these things are covered in.
I think this is really the way you explain it. You can go as much as deeper
as
in
much
it.
as
ये तो मरीना ट्रेंच है, मतलब
हाँ,
आप कहीं भी जा सकते हो.
you're asking a very simple question,
Simple
right?
question, but if
Yeah.
you know someone technical, बंदा गया,
Correct.
क्योंकि you can scratch like anything इसमें. तो what do you expect कि बंदा कितना तो बता दे?
No, I mean, obviously, if somebody has mentioned that he comes up with, let's say, I'm referring this question to a college student, right?
ठीक है.
Now, obviously, in college, they would have learned a little bit of networking, this, that. And believe me, people are smart enough. So, the people who are actually hands on and who are smart enough, they would be able to tell me specifically, then when this happens right now, I'm at a browser page, then this will happen, then this will happen. They might do a little bit of mistakes here and there, which is okay and acceptable to me, rather than yaar ye kya पूछ लिया, and somebody is like, oh, all of it. So you are easily able to make out, right? I mean, there's no threshold over here that it is 100, it has to be 100% right or 100% wrong, but you can easily ask it, are you sure that this will happen? And at times also what happens to me is I give them guidance in between the interview as well. I mean, actually, these are some of the areas, because if I have spent 1 hour of my time taking interview and somebody has spent his time as well, and I feel that, okay, I have seen that couple of places, application security, they have gone bonkers. I mean, they didn't answer anything. I said, yaar, next interview ke liye, oh, I have stopped in, at least basic ye pad lena. Because you have written this in your CV and you have freaking no idea about this one. So please do read it. It will help. I mean, right now, thank you. And at times, if a person has given a decent bit of satisfactory answer, we are more than happy to have them on board. I mean, and
True.
I mean,
Chalo,
there's
you
no
are into
100%.
the architecture and
Yeah.
all this consulting work. So let's take an example. Someone wants to start in Dubai. कि यार मेरा at least I can start with 10,000, 15,000 dirham, which is somewhere 20,000 is like way beyond good to go option. But let's say someone wants to start from the 10,000 or 15,000 dirham of salary per month. So what do you recommend them? आप उसको क्या recommend करोगे?
There are two options. I mean, either you have a growth path in India and then come to Dubai, or let's say immediately. What I have seen, I mean, it's totally my perspective, because what happens many times, people ask, ki, "Acha, khud to chala gaya and he's recommending right now not to come." Because look, I have been a consultant all throughout. So, I mean, if you're coming into the consulting side, obviously the client demands a certain level of expertise to give them a recommendation,
that's
right?
true.
So, in that case, what I typically recommend is have that understanding, development, growth path, because over here you can't afford to falter. I mean,
बिल्कुल.
once you are into the global market, you can't afford to falter so frequent.
True.
India is a place wherein you can afford to have that level of, I mean, you can do mistakes, somebody will help you, guide you, so on and so forth. My recommendation would be to enhance your skill, get to a certain skill level, and when you are being interviewed in a global market, be it by me, I mean, by X number of people anywhere over here, they would probably gauge, and then you can actually take a jump into the global market. So rather than going at or considering a salary level, just enhance your skill. And in cybersecurity, I was offered X amount of money, and within a small duration, I was offered a 2x amount of money as well. So, which essentially means that something was happening during that transition or during some period when you are learning, your growth path is significant. So, I mean, primarily emphasize that just, for example, enhance your skill and then take a switch. To be very specific, what I was mentioning is before 2020 also, since I was traveling since 2013, I have got offers earlier as well. I mean, to move to this region, but salary was not that enough if you do a purchasing power parity, or maybe circumstances were not
ठीक है.
good enough, so never thought about it. Only when you achieve to a certain level, it depends that you want to come over here and then have that stagnancy, or you want to directly come at this level and work at a engineer level for a long duration of time. Because what I know is in India, and considering my growth path in India was, I already was a senior manager in 2017, 16, 17 in EY. So the growth path over there was quite steep for me.
Mhm.
So I would recommend to adopt that path, and I typically tell to the people as well.
Of course. But फिर भी still, what would be the right place here to domains like in the cybersecurity, whether they should go for the VAPT or to the threat
VAPT market, okay. If you're asking
application?
about Dubai, VAPT market is pretty much like now failed because there are too many VAPT consultants. Data security is one area where definitely they can actually delve in because less capability even from a market perspective, less books about that.
ठीक.
Core network security will easily get engineers, but if you look from a cloud perspective, it would definitely be slightly better. So, cloud security as a whole, data security is one aspect. Governance, I would not prefer to focus. I mean, because it can be easily handled by folks over here as well. So, it's not something where you are adding a lot of specialization. But I mean, as a strategy, we do have to get into that governance aspect as well. But mostly, it will be with the particular entity who are doing, or and it's mostly handled by senior professionals as well. So if you have to ask me, either at times L1, L2, I mean the salary range which you're talking about, L1, L2, SOC analysts and those positions are very easy to probably to enter in. And data security, I mean, if you want to talk to me from a niche perspective, that's one area to get in. And then if you are experienced in those Gen AI and other things, then definitely I think this is the place to be. So these are the 2-3 avenues I would want to mention.
Great. So now let's jump to the quick rapid fire round. So for which we have
Okay.
prepared some questions. You are into the cybersecurity. So one of the any web series or any movie you want to recommend to watch if you want to become a cybersecurity professional, you should go through it.
No web series. So I typically prefer A, consuming a lot of podcasts, B, reading a lot through small books and snippets.
Books, yes.
I have Blinkist subscription. I mean, no advertisement as such, but I prefer Blinkist. Headaway and a couple of others are there, but I consume a lot on this one and on
So which
podcasts.
book you want to recommend?
Blinkist, try and read everything, yeah. And
Acha.
I mean, there are like 10 minutes you can spend easily on psychology to this to everything.
Okay. So now on the next question, of course, you reach out to this level. So what is that habit that change everything?
I think just pure diligence. I mean, diligence and persistence. Probably a bit of patience as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I think just keep focusing. No competition per se. Just keep enhancing your skill because after a certain level, there is a bit of those tendencies which starts creeping in that okay, I can live with that. But technology is changing so fast that you have to be very curious and have that hunger to learn.
Great. So one myth about cybersecurity you would like to bust?
I mean, so many people just tell me, oh, okay, they just get into that hacking. No, bro, it's not about hacking. It's only just 5 to 10% part of it. So there is plethora of opportunity in all the other domains as well.
Great.
It's not
Excellent
about
answer.
hacking.
This is indeed.
I mean, I don't know why. Even if I try to tell someone, they'll just come back to okay, hacking. No, bro, come on. I mean, it's
You're in cybersecurity, break my password or break someone's password of
yeah,
Facebook.
I mean, I get all these kind of questions even in the flight as well. In between that, okay, is Bitcoin safe or is this is safe or is WhatsApp encrypted? And I was like, okay.
Excellent. So it's been a long time in Dubai. So Dubai in a one word for you.
More than one word. It's I think, aspirational, ambitious. They have a very broad vision. By the time the world takes one step, I don't know how Dubai takes 10 steps. So very strong governance. I think it's more than one words.
True.
So yeah,
Is
that's
that a
what I would.
governance strong or the compliance are also there
No, no,
strong?
no. Governance is extremely strong.
Acha.
I would not get into legality and the compliance part of it, but the way the country is run, even if you go to in an Emirates flight, you see when they're explaining the whole thing, how they're running the country like a company. They have SLAs, and if you look at the CMMI scale, actually, if I draw an analogy, CMMI scale, that 4 and 5 rating talks about continuous improvement. So if you have landed in Dubai and your average SLA for the tourist is 2.5
5.
days, they'll try and ensure that what else they can do to make it 3.5. So this is like
Who can
actually,
imagine this
yeah, yeah,
thing?
yeah, yes, absolutely.
That they are checking out the SLAs of these
Yes, yes,
things.
yes. And a couple of times we have received some RFPs which are like crazy, that the vision is so strong. I mean, you can't beat that. Like it's literally like running an enterprise, and that too at a maturity scale of 4 to 5.
Seriously, Abhishek, when I come to know about all this thing regarding to the Dubai, not before that, before that period of time when I was a tourist. Now, if I'm looking opportunities here, if I'm establishing my business, when I start searching about the Dubai, I'm shocked. The things you are talking about, the company, the government, what they have a different of they have different segments, they have different departments of the cyber security. They are at that level that no one can easily understand. They have ministers having expertise. They're getting everything. Their country cannot left behind. कोई भी टेक्नोलॉजी कुछ भी हो तो आई थिंक मैं ये सोच रहा हूँ कि यार हमारी जो कंट्री है जिससे हम आए हैं दोनों इंडिया, कितना कुछ है हमारे पास ट्रांसपोर्टेशन में, हमारे पास आपके टूरिज्म के अंदर, हमारे पास भी सारी बीचेस भी हैं, हमारे पास बहुत सारे रिसोर्सेज भी हैं हमारे पास. तो आई एम जस्ट एक्यूमुलेटिंग एवरीथिंग. ये तो क्या मतलब किस तरीके से ग्रो कर रहे हैं हर जगह पे, तो हम भी तो कितना कुछ कर सकते हैं अपनी
बहुत
कंट्री
कुछ
में.
कर सकते हैं. आई मीन आई टोटली एग्री विद यू. बहुत कुछ कर सकते हैं. मतलब आफ्टर मूविंग ओवर हियर, व्हेन आई वर्क विद लॉट ऑफ गवर्नमेंट एंटिटीज, दैट टाइम आई रियलाइज आई वाज वर्किंग ओवर देयर मोस्टली विद कॉर्पोरेट्स. But over here, I mean, when I'm working with governments and they're like inviting consultants, almost in every project, there's a significant amount of consulting involved, and then actually the execution happens. So I realize even, I mean, we have a different setup, we have a mixed economy, but little duration. I have also worked with, I mean, in government, and obviously I'll just restrain to commenting anything further. But I mean, from a consulting perspective, yes, in the last 10 years, we are growing significantly, but we have enough opportunities, enough capability, enough skill set to get into these things. And one thing I'll just want to circle back on a point you mentioned. I mean, since we're catering to a young audience, I think Mr. Narendra Modi ji has one time mentioned on the skill part. I think in his very first this thing, probably we misunderstood or we didn't focus much on the skill part. But if we can actually focus and emphasize on developing skill, it can just take some leaps and bounds.
True.
So there's no end to it. And I think that was a very strong message, which probably I didn't realize that time. But what he was talking that time, I'm just relating it
But
now. That
there's always a other side of the coin. So if we have the talent, so they they fly back, they fly somewhere else because of the if we talk about the things, to be very frank here, if I'm here, if I have a kid, I know what circumstances I could have back in India, I could have in Dubai or like in some of the countries. So we have, when you have the options to choose, of course you want the best. And this is something we need to work in our country to, just not to focus on a particular level, just to focus on every level. किसी को मत छेड़ो यार, मतलब किसी को स्किप मत करो. इससे नहीं है कि लोअर क्लास को ही हमें डेवलप करना है, मिडिल क्लास पे ही काम करना है, तो ये हाई क्लास को ही वो ऐसे वो प्रिविलेजेस देने हमें नहीं. आई थिंक हमें सब कुछ कवर करना चाहिए, सो वी कैन कैटर मोर एंड मोर टैलेंट बैक टू आवर कंट्री. और बहुत सारी चीज़ें हैं, चलो वो तो चलती रहेंगी.
नहीं, the point that I was trying to make is, and specifically not focusing or dividing on the basis of the class, the point I was focusing was that earlier it's not confined to the books and only that you are going into a certain institute, then only you will be inculcated or incorporated in a particular firm. For example, I remember that back in the days, EY used to recruit for only from certain tier A colleges. But after a point in time, once I think around 2014-15, when the cyber division was formed, people were straight away recruited from Nalcon.
Achha.
Whether you have completed degree, you have not completed degree, if you are good at it or you are best at it, not only by I think any other big four or any other companies, they focus on talent. So, and you are not only confined by talent by reading only certain books or going to a certain college. Enough information is available on YouTube. I think you also asked me a question, which book to read. I consume, if I have to understand SSL decryption, I'll not go to like open a book and see कि वहाँ पे क्या लिखा है. I'll just open certain number of shorts and video and I'll understand अच्छा, how this guy has explained, how this has explained, how this is explained, and this is how I understand. So enough things are available. How you're utilizing it, it's all on that.
It's a simple system. If you are going to visit a country you never been or you don't have reference, so open 2 or 3 videos, find out what others are talking about, and take the decision how you're going to visit and everything.
Yeah, exactly. And at times, one of the other things can also work is I've seen people who have very good risk-taking abilities straight away coming into a region and then exploring. For me, it was very simple because, and it was not mandated that I'll move over here. I was continuously serving the client in this region, so it organically happened. Couple of folks in India are serving UK clients. They gradually move to UK. At times they prefer staying back. So that's totally a personal choice.
Exactly. So, what do you prefer the most, working in India or move abroad?
First working in India, gaining experience, move abroad if opportunity permits, and if you are comfortable in India, I think
That is good to go.
that is also totally fine.
So, when you're hiring, so what do you prefer the most, certification or a skill?
Certification just maybe from a resume selection, but entirely skill. I mean, certification can only get your CV shortlisted.
Exactly.
But if your CV is shortlisted and I'm discussing with you, then the way you are answering question will tell me whether it's a theoretical answer or whether you have done the stuff over there or not.
Excellent, Abhishek. This is all the questions of the rapid fire round. So, anything that you want to ask from us?
No, I mean, I think I just want to thank you and for giving this opportunity. Initially, my first project actually in Tech Mahindra was Next Generation Networks. So I thought NG Networks is Next Generation Networks. I was like, wow, okay. And yeah, I mean, looking forward to your journey, collaboration, and thank you for giving this opportunity.
Okay, so before ending up, I want to know, because with your experience, looking at me, forget about the technical. I just want to know how you judge the people. So where do you find, if I'm in cybersecurity, I would be the right person in that particular profile?
Look, I mean, I would just go back to what my partner said. We are just gauging mostly on the attitude. So at times, you a little bit compromise. For example, you are working in procurement and you want to shift into cyber. Obviously, your experience of business understanding will be helpful, and then I am just looking at the attitude. So even if you are in procurement, I would try and answer questions related to your department, and obviously a little bit of what you have done in cyber, so that somewhere it fits into that particular bucket. So that's how, I mean, I would try to gauge you, even if somebody is like non-technical, or I mean, I cannot just come with a totally blank slate saying that, okay, let me explore cybersecurity. It won't work that way. I mean, if you have done or come up to a certain level, definitely would have done some level of due diligence, right, to decide to switch your path.
Excellent answer. Actually, I asked this question intentionally because I want to tell the audience, boss, if these people having experience hiring a lot of people, so they have a figure out when you start talking to them, they understood who you are. So easily he can just fix me into this certain place with the examples, with the explanation that, yeah, you can fit yourself here and you can do that. So before you start answering, when they start asking the question, they understood who you are and what you're doing. So I think faking you guys is not an easy task for anyone. But yeah, exceptions are always there. I think we easily digest most of the things if it is not
Mostly
so.
there will be multiple rounds in any big entity or enterprise. You will be having multiple rounds. If you're faking in front of me, maybe the next
Some
person
other guy will be.
catch hold of you. And so I don't think so that there is, or either the bookish answer will probably
Work
help. So,
nowadays.
yeah, just be true to your skill and then answer accordingly, I think.
So this is why we started. This is how I started, Abhishek. I told you my story as well. So we want to take the right picture. My main aim into the market to establish myself in. I was talking about, it's not about Dubai, to globally. So I am just giving a simple passage. I'm just giving a simple path through which you can come down to the right place. Not just depend on your certification based training. You get a right process, you get a right package through which you understand, okay, I'm going to the cyber, I'm going to the AI, I'm going to that let's say in the cyber, I'm going to the architect level or something. So what is the right passage? What is the right path? So this is something very important to understand. This is how my goal is to explain, to discuss, and this is why to burst all these myths, start taking this podcast to make them understand how they can make a better career. Just speak to the expert instead of watching random videos on the YouTube explaining cybersecurity and AI. AI will eat your domain. Mostly students ask me this question, sir, what happened to our domain in next when AI is there? So nothing is going to happen right now. Just build your career first, and then they start thinking about it. So yeah, end of the day, what we have discussed with these experts, so it will help you to understand what exactly is the domain, what these people think about the domain and the market. So yeah, it gives a good idea. And thank you very much, Abhishek. You speak really well.
Appreciate
And
it.
thanks
And
again.
thank you so much for your time. It's really a nice insight to share all this.